Well, I'm running for governor to take Mississippi to its full potential. If you look back over the history of our state, the Democrats were in charge for 150 years. We had a conservative governor and Governor Fordyce, but he had two Democrat leaders in the House and the Senate when he was governor. Governor Barber served 2 terms as governor of the state of Mississippi, but Billy McCoy was Speaker of the House, and I think anyone who was around during those times know the liberal manner in which he ran the House. And so conservatives have actually been in charge of the House and the Senate and the governor's office for only the last 8 years. And when you look at how often the legislature meets, that's only 24 months. So the Democrats were in control for 150 years. Conservatives have been in control for the last and had 24 months to fix things. And the progress that we've made has been incredible. The fact of the matter is Mississippi is headed in the right direction. When you look at the economic progress that we've made, Mississippi has the lowest unemployment rate than at any time in our state's history. Mississippi has more people working today than at any time in our state's history. And in fact, 88,000 more people are working today in Mississippi than were working just 8 years ago when Governor Bryant and I ran the first time. And so I believe strongly that we are headed in the right direction, but we need a governor that's strong enough and focused enough and dedicated enough to make Mississippi reach our full potential. Well, I think it's critical that Mississippi continues to focus on being a fiscally responsible government. During my tenure as Lieutenant Governor, I think it's fair to say that I have certainly been focused on that. We have a truly balanced budget today that only spends recurring revenue for recurring expenditures. We're only spending 98% of our expected revenue, which means we have 2% to set aside for a rainy day. And oh, by the way, our rainy day fund is up over $400 million today. And the thing that Mississippians know better than most is whether it's an economic disaster or a natural disaster, there are always going to be days that rain. And if our economics turn around, Mississippi is currently prepared for it. So I'll continue to focus on fiscal responsibility. Mississippi has less debt on the books at the end of my 8 years as Lieutenant Governor than what we had when we began. That's very different than what's going on in virtually every other state. And in addition to that, it's very different than what's going on even in Washington, D.C. And so we'll focus on fiscal responsibility. I also believe if we're going to see long-term economic growth in Mississippi, we must have a tax code that is fair, one that is flat, one that encourages economic development, not one that discourages it. It's the reason I champion the largest tax cut in Mississippi history. It's because it makes Mississippi businesses more competitive when they're competing with those around the globe. But it also makes Mississippi more competitive when we're trying to attract business and industry into our state. So we need to continue to focus on cutting taxes and lowering regulation. And the third thing that we must do is we must continue to improve the educational outcomes of our students. As you know, we have seen great progress in terms of graduation rates in Mississippi. Graduation rates are up almost 11 percentage points over the last 8 years. Almost 84% of our kids are going to graduate from high school this year. That's been a steady rise, whereas the national average has basically stayed flat. That's because we focused on improving student outcomes for far too long in Mississippi. For far too long. The only conversation around education was about inputs. How much money are you willing to spend with no better results? What we focused on is outcomes. Are we spending our money in the most efficient manner possible? And are we spending it in the classroom? So I believe the best way for every kid to get a quality education is to have a quality teacher in every classroom. And the best way to have a quality teacher in every classroom is to spend more money in the classroom and less money in the district office. Now that hadn't made me popular with some of the folks who serve in the district office, and I realize that, but it's made me popular with parents and with kids because our kids are performing significantly better on their 8th grade reading and their 8th grade math NAEP testing results. Their 4th grade reading and 4th grade math testing results have improved. And in fact, in 4th grade reading, 10-year growth numbers, Mississippi kids actually outperform 48 other states around the nation. Mississippi is second in the nation in improvements in 4th grade reading results, and that's a direct result of focusing on outcomes. And by the way, nobody in Jackson deserves credit for that. The credit belongs to our teachers, to our administrators, to our parents, and yes, to our kids. All we've done is try to raise the level of expectations, but Mississippians across the state have done what Mississippians do, and they have risen up and they've met those increased expectations. We'll continue that path. Well, we're working hard. I have told everyone everywhere I've been that no one is going to outwork us in this campaign. And we have two quality individuals running in the Republican primary. And the great thing about living in America is anybody can run for anything they want to run for. But as a famous person once said, the main thing is to always keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing that we have to focus on in 2019 is that our political enemy is the liberal ideas of the party of Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Jim Hood. Well, I think when you look at I don't know that there's just a specific point in time, but when you look at the improved results being produced by kids all across the state in K through 12 classrooms, it makes me extremely proud because I know that Mississippians can compete and I know that Mississippians can win. And so when I see high school graduation rates improving 11 percentage points in 8 years, I get excited. When I see that our fourth grade reading results are outperforming 48 other states, I get excited. And so I really think about the improved educational outcomes as something that we should all be proud of. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that Republicans and Democrats and people all across the state are not singing the praises of the progress that is being made, because I believe success begets success. And I believe strongly that we ought to all be celebrating our successes, recognizing that we have more challenges before us. But that's really what drives me, is I want to make Mississippi an even better place. And when I see these kind of results, I get excited and it makes me optimistic about our future. Well, I'll tell you that the best experience I've had that has prepared me for running for governor is the experience I got working in my family business. Growing up, my dad put me in the warehouse when I was well under the age of what I should have been, probably sweeping floors. And by the way, in the summer in the South, in a hot warehouse, you learn that you probably want to get an education. You don't want to do that for the rest of your life. And the fact of the matter is, I was able to go in and actually help folks run ductwork in their attics. And yeah, in the middle of July, that's a hot job. But what I learned growing up in a small business is how important it is for entrepreneurs across our state to be willing to invest their capital and invest their time and have a passion to grow their businesses. Because in Mississippi, small businesses become big businesses, and small businesses employ the vast majority of Mississippians. And so I think it's critically important that we have people in government that understand what it's like to work in small businesses across our state, because the vast majority of Mississippians fit that bill. Now, obviously, I've grown a reputation from a policy standpoint. Public policy is my passion, but the reason it's my passion is because I know how it can affect people. And I know that when we can have the largest tax cut in Mississippi history, that actually puts more money in people's pockets. And I know that when we put more money in people's pockets, our citizens are better at knowing how to spend their money than any governmental entity ever will be. And so those experiences are, I think, critical, and our next governor needs them. Well, what I will tell you is, if you give me the opportunity to serve as the next governor of this state, I will continue to build on the successes of Governor Bryant and his conservative leadership, and we will continue to make Mississippi an even better place to invest capital. We'll continue to make Mississippi an even better place to create jobs, and we'll make Mississippi an even better place to raise a family.